In this lesson, I'm going to talk about doing hovers over with div statements. Right now, what we left off with is the last class is I've got home above us. We can change its color, we can change its font size, we can do almost anything with it. What I want to do is I want something else to now show up. Initially, we're going to start here with something. We'll put some text down here that I want to show up. If we want something to show up and it's a long way away from this area, then we got to use JavaScript, which we'll talk about later. Let's get that set up. Okay, so here's my standard nav bars with hover over each of the items. But what I want to do here is do a hover over a div. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing is let's go ahead and get some notepad. Let's get my code here. Okay, this is basically exactly the same as the previous video. Oops, no, I changed it. Okay, this is Control S. So what I did is I did this for class, and now I'm repeating it, so I left part of it out. So I had to correct it. So this is actually what you've got set up. Okay. First thing is I got to go ahead and I'm going to put my text message here. So here I'm under my div. I'm going to do P rollover hover with text is easy. With text is easy, and then good enough. Now what we want to do here is, so let's make sure we get that part. Control S, refresh, and then hover with display. There you go. Hover with text is easy. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to set this with an ID. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have, basically I'm going to put this entire thing, in geek speak we call it containers. So I'm going to go ahead and use an ID, so I can call it whatever I want. Hoover me, well, can't spell, but Hoover me, good enough. Number one, next thing I need to know is I need to know what tag is associated with, and then what I want to happen. So in this case, I want opacity to be 0. So I want the text to be gone. Okay, so let's see if we get it that way. Now, first thing I got to do is I can do multiple divs. So, but I need to say, look, this div I need to ID it inside the div statement. So ID equals, in this case, Hoover me. Now there's nothing sacred about this word. It could be ABC. Okay, it does not matter. So let's go ahead and see where we are at that. Control S. Refresh my web page. Now, okay, now my text is gone. Why? Because it's part of the div where I said opacity is equal to 0. Okay, let's go ahead and now set up the rollover. So now what we're going to do is with this ID, I want this ID to have a hover. So when the mouse is on this div, I want cursor, explorer, I want you to be aware of it and then do something. So again, because it's an ID, I need to tell the computer, hey, what statement, what HTML tag are you talking about? In this case, P. Now I'm doing opacity here. It could be color, or whatever. The important thing is that you get to know how it works, so that later on I can say, well, then throw in a video. Once we do web animations, okay, now I want when you hover, I want an animation to play. The logic of it is exactly the same. If you can learn it now, and it makes sense here with simply text and one simple opacity, then you can be a lot more creative when you get a chance without feeling overwhelmed. Previous years I would show people these web pages and people go, oh my God, it's impossible. No, the logic of it is exactly the same. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Well, I'm done with my spiel. Opacity, I'm going to set that equal to 1. Okay. Here you go. Oops, wiggly bracket. There you go. So really quickly, now here, hover, I need to spell that exactly the way the selector has to be spelled correctly. Okay? And then, for the most part, we are done. Opacity. Oops, I see this. I can't spell. Opacity. Okay, there you go. Now hit Control S, refresh, and then now, boom. There you go, boom. So now, besides text color or font or whatever you want, I get another HTML element to appear. So basically, this is the end of the lesson. I'll bring up the code, so I'll leave it with that. So basically, this allows me, by using an ID, I can also use a class here. Pound sign, I mean not pound sign, period. Pound sign is ID, period is class. I could have done this with a class as well. But the important part here is just to know the basics of it. So when we get to web animations, when I get to links, when I get to images, oh yeah, all you got to do is once you know the setup, then just go ahead and put in the HTML tags for what it is you want, but you understand how to do it. Okay? So anyway, hover with div and IDs.